Hello and welcome to the Dinosaw number 255, another 7 curious, interesting things I saw last week. So as ever, let's crack on. First one is SuperSplat Editor. This is a Gaussian splat viewer and also point cloud editor. And the interesting thing is it's free and in a web browser. You can use it today. So this is me editing a point cloud that I've made, and if I wanted to delete that sculpture at the top of the fern leaves, I just select those points and I delete them. So that's amazing. So no skill required, quite literally. So if you're thinking what on earth's going on here, didn't understand any of that, well, a point cloud is a 3D model usually generated from photos or video, and it then infers the 3D scene. And Gaussian splatting is a newish rendering technique that uses big sort of blobs instead of triangles. So there you go. Now if you're thinking I want to have a go of this one, but where would I get one of these models from? Well, if you download something like Scaniverse onto your phone, scan an item or a scene, and then you can then download the .ply file and you can do this yourself. There you go. Very interesting. This is Sincerely. This is a Chrome extension plugin, and you add it to your Chrome browser, and therefore if you're in an email, for instance, you can then change the text in your email and it will give you a bit of a hand. So if, for instance, you just need a bit of subtle help, then you can put it onto that mode. The second mode is human mode. So if you have used AI in your email generation, shame on you, obviously, but this will then rehumanify it. So it will, for instance, take out the em dashes, and it will also add some typos to it, because that's what humans do as well. It also has a CEO mode, which I should probably use a little bit more, and it makes everything super succinct. So there you go. Well, that's what CEOs love. So there you go. Very interesting. If you want that, it's for free. This is PenPal. This is from the Chicago University of Chicago, and it's a pen with a mind of its own, or at least you can tell it what to do without actually moving your hand. So there's an interface for it. You tell it what you want to draw, for instance, this little sort of triangle-y thing, and it will draw a little triangle-y thing without you moving your hands. Now, what this does allow you to do is repetitive movements, and also to essentially interact with the artist in interesting ways. So if you want to do some shading, it can do that for you. But likewise, it creates this really interesting duality between artist and implement. One of the researchers in this said didn't really want to disappoint the pen by moving my hand too much, which I thought was really interesting. So, in the age of AI and art, then, technology and art, I think this is the right way to go. This is Google S2Vec, that's how the cool kids call it. This is a new model by Google, and it uses mapping grids to then make predictions. So this is interesting if you're maybe a media planner, for instance, or a town planner, or maybe you're a financier. Wouldn't you love to know what goes on in each one of these grid squares? Well, Google know all of this stuff. They know all the businesses, they know all the links. That's what they do for a living. So if you give it a grid square, it will then look up every single business, every single type of thing in that grid square, and then make a prediction based on that. Now, that could be the amount of pollution. It could be, for instance, socio-economic or the income per capita in that grid square. So, for instance, as I say, if you're a media person, what type of person would you attract for maybe an outdoor billboard, for instance, is interesting. But likewise, if you're a financier, then where should you invest next, or what should be the credit rating in any given square? So could be used for evil, essentially, but there you go. If that's what you need, then that's what's available. This is programmable jumpy knots. That's not actually what they're called, but I thought I'd call them that because it's funny. This is from Penn University, and what they're doing here is they're trying to bury seeds when they're ready to be buried, ready to be grown. So this is version 2. I think the first one a couple of years ago, I seem to remember, had like a little screwy wooden thing when activated by water, but this is activated by temperature. So what's going on here is there is a knot made out of this sort of polymery stuff, and it's got some tension in it. When the temperature gets to just the right amount, it releases the knot, which then releases the essentially the energy, and then it springs up into the air. Now, what they've also done is they put a little kind of sycamore leaf type of tail on it, or wing on it, and it then spirals down and it buries the seed into the soil, as seen in the demo. So so in the future, you might just get, for instance, lots of these scattered onto the ground exactly when they're ready to be propagated, I guess, they will then spring up and dive into the soil themselves. Now, you can also just use a plow and a tractor when they're ready, but you know, this is a kind of curious, interesting way. Well done. This is the world's first artificial chocolate bar. Now, I thought this had been invented before, but they're essentially just substitutes to chocolate, and this is actually chocolate. So this is the first time this has happened. This is Celeste, who have helped Mondelez, makers of Cadbury's and Toblerone and that sort of thing. Now, what they've actually done is they've used cell culture to make the cocoa butter, like literally cocoa butter in a lab. So it doesn't use substitutes, it doesn't use all sort of new chemicals or vegetables. It is literally cocoa butter. So you can now make cocoa butter anywhere in the world by using cell culture, and therefore you can then make that into chocolate. Now, it smells like chocolate, breaks like chocolate, melts like chocolate, tastes like chocolate. It is chocolate. So this is a bit of a breakthrough for the environment potentially, because now you don't need thousands of acres of land put over to cocoa butter. There you go. Interesting. So coming to a mouth near you soon. And finally, we have Angine de Poitrine, which apparently in French means chest pain. And it's, I'll just shut up, let you listen to it. So it's kind of curious. Now, why am I talking about this? Now, they've been around for a while, but really blown up on the scene this year. Now, you might notice that guitar has a lot of frets on it, and likewise, the music's a little bit weird. So a lot of people have been saying, yeah, this is kind of funky. It's obviously a new sort of niche, but also a lot of people in the AI world are saying it's really difficult for AI to train on this stuff. So therefore, this might be a new type of genre of music, which is very difficult to train, not just trying to hide the music, but actually just new genres of music. So this is very similar to what happened with photography in maybe the mid 1800s. When photography came along, all the people who were specializing in making things look absolutely realistic all of a sudden went, well, now what do we do? Let's start doing other weird art stuff. So Art Nouveau, Art Deco, you know, modern art essentially, and lots of types of art came out after that. So we might be seeing the start of it now, when lots of weirder music starts to come out, because it's just going to confuse AI. So well done to Angine de Poitrine. I like that one. Hopefully that was interesting. Hopefully it was useful. If it was, give it a like, and I'll see you again next week.